Wow, it really hated that.
Looked great.
All right, here we go. We're back.
Woo. Awesome, thank you.
So, how are you all doing?
No.
Good. We're good.
No.
Oh no.
No.
Oh.
Turn down all lights a little bit.
No. Connecting.
All right, let's try the last time here. I'll appear in my true form, as opposed to my final form. Cool. Well, how's it all going?
It's going good.
Going good. FailFest looks totally awesome. I wish I could be there. I just came from another presentation. I normally don't look like this. So yeah, I guess glitches is what brings us here today, and I could talk a little bit about glitches because I like them. Yeah. Okay. Well, so you're gonna hear a lot of. Everyone makes glitches for different reasons, right? Like everyone's interested in this aesthetic for different reasons. Everyone's unique, snowflakes, rainbows, all that good stuff. What I'm really interested in, and I will say this, like I'm a pretty bad new media artist because I'm not really interested in what's new or what's media. What I'm really interested in is ghosts. I love ghosts. And I'll explain, and this is one of those things where like I start off over here, but really we end up over here and you realize they were the same thing the whole time. So I'm interested in ghosts because I find it hard to believe in anything, to have faith in things, right? And I feel like if I saw a ghost or if I saw a Bigfoot or something like that would complete my life. That would be amazing. Because it's something that I was told is impossible. And then to see it with my own eyes, or to be part of something impossible, and to aestheticize it or to know it is something that I have a great interest in. You know, people say like, you know, babies are miracles. Not a miracle. Happens all the time. Ghosts would be miraculous. If I saw, yeah. Anyway, all right. So I started making glitches. I was maybe not making glitches, facilitating glitches. I was like a glitch midwife. Let's say that. I started doing that in 2005 and 2006 because I was at Ithaca College, and I was studying with a guy named David Gatton, who is a filmmaker, and he makes films that sort of like he would take roles. Okay, so he would take like spools of film, and he would scratch on the film, and that way, because when people are like, I'm gonna go see a film, they like put this in the projector and they wind it up and then it goes, and then they think they've seen a film, but what really they've seen is a projection of light through film. And I know that might be a really pedantic thing to make the difference of, but what David did was he would take this and he would scratch on it, he would use alternate processes, and he would really make the medium something of relevance. And I really thought that this was cool. And you know, there's a lot of people throughout the course of time-based media that have done this. You know, Man Ray did this, Meaney did this. You know, even if you go back to text, you can think of like James Joyce as someone who did this. I mean, he did it with text. You ever try to read Finnegan's Wake? Shit's impossible. So anyway, I was in Ithaca and I was thinking, you know, there has to be a way that we could do this with video. There has to be something that we can do to concretize this nebula, right? Because you know, people are like, you know, when people first told me how video works, they might have just said like a wizard did it. Like I have no idea how like the electrons actually function in the computer, how they get translated through a video card. So like a person that is interested in wizards, I began to study about how files are constructed, and most people who do this don't they don't start in a creation process where they start from 0 and go to 100. They start from 100 and go down a little bit. And what that meant for me was taking files, taking really anything I get my hands on, and taking a look at the code and breaking parts of it and kind of seeing how it worked. Ithica is a kind of neat program. Not that I'm trying to plug them, but like I went to art school, but I have a bachelor's of science, which is kind of neat. So yeah, I was doing sciencey things and I was breaking this, and then this is where it gets lame, or not lame, but this is where everyone gets sad. Then like not everyone, a lot of people I really loved started getting really sick and dying. Ooh. And I was like, oh, that sucks. I need to figure out a way to deal with this. So for me, death makes a lot of sense. You know, like we are creatures that produce death. It's the thing that connects me to you, no matter what else. We are born and we are gonna die. You could like chocolate ice cream, I could like vanilla. You know, it doesn't matter. We're all gonna die. We are united in that, and it's ludicrous to me that like it's the thing. It's like this ultimate taboo. It's a thing that we're very afraid of, and that like people have developed whole religions to like try to cope with. But it doesn't have to be like that. It could be this really beautiful communal thing. And the trick then is to show entropy, because really what that is, I mean, I don't know what happens when you die. I'm assuming it's something for which we don't have a great language, right? So when you cross that line, when you go from living to dead, you become a glitch. You become something that is not broken, but something for which the original vocabulary can no longer be applied. And I was like, oh wow, so they are entropic things that have passed this point of entropy. Footnote, shout out to my boy, Claude Shannon. Claude Shannon was a mathematician and a statistician, a theorist and an engineer, and just an all-around amazing person. And he came up with an equation called the point of entropy. And he said that we can compress data and compress data and compress data to a point, and at some point in this compression, it'll become unretrievable. So in our attempt to make JPEGs smaller, so in the Facebook attempt, so that we can have a lot of pictures on Facebook, we make them smaller. There's a point that we can't go past, because then we can't see the pictures, we can't view them, they cease to become pictures. But the thing is, they don't go away. No, they don't go away, we just can't talk to them. Something that doesn't go away, you have a hard time talking about. So these gears were going into my brain. And then a good friend of mine went down to good old South America. And there was an experience that she had there, a really scary experience for kind of both of us. And when she came back, she told me, before she told me like what happened, she told me this story. And she said, when in Ecuador, which is where she was, there's this tree. It's called the Ceiba tree. God, here's like another artist talking about trees, I swear to God. Anyway, the tree is my muse. No, God, no. Anyway, so there's this tree, it's called the Ceiba tree. It's really strong and regenerative. Like it's like a giving tree. You can like rip down whole branches and like 2 years later they'll be back with reinforcements. It's kind of amazing. And they're really hard to grow. When they do grow, like whole communities would spring up around them. There's a La Ceiba in the Dominican Republic, and there's another one in Mexico. It's like, it's crazy. Anyway, they said that when you die, you go to the tree and you are taken up through the branches if you were good, and if you died poorly, you go down through the roots. But the thing that I became really interested in is this lag. Because they said that if you had a partner, a child, someone for whom you could not leave, you'd wait. You would wait by the tree for your partner to come with you, because, and it's linguistically interesting because they say it's not just that you'd miss them, it's that the next life would not even be viable. It's like, and what a beautiful statement to say to someone, without you, eternity would be wasted on me. Kind of awesome. You should use that to try to get people to kiss you. Just anyway, so I became interested in that, in this idea of representations, of ghosts, sort of how we archive malfunctioning things, sort of like an entombment, and drawing a lot of parallels between like this mortal entropic line and this technologic entropic line, and you know, the sexy side of it is like I was working now. You know, now I'm working on supercomputers at Oak Ridge, and like I mapped every standard definition video codec and how they get deconstructed, and I was doing projects on sort of comparative issues of file architecture, and yeah, like really, really interesting cocktail party stuff. Good lord, I had to come up with this ghost stuff to make it all seem interesting. But what you find is that this breakdown of code is kind of interesting in that it mirrors another breakdown of code. Like in your you know, and Dawkins, you know, before he started his war on God, he was a scientist at one point, and he wrote this amazing book called The Extended Phenotype, and he basically argues that the disease that kills you is in your body right now, technically, or rather, receptors are there for it. So when you were born, you were pre-programmed to be susceptible to the final thing that's going to end your life. And because we are imperfect beings and we can't create a perfect archival system, when we think about file structure, did I glitch? Did I screw up?
No, you're good.
Oh, sweet. You know, because we have this like entropic system, yeah, like they sort of mirror one another, right? Like different files will break down in certain ways. So I think that in the new media community, it's sort of easy to, you know, it's easy to be like, oh, like I hacked the, you know, the Matsusuka format, or like I broke the new version of Flash and now it creates all these great colors. And I think that's well and good. I mean, it's always nice to have technical progression, but I think that you can't marry that technical progression for a good reason why you're doing it. Then you're just breaking shit for the sake of breaking shit. And you know, you might as well start a late 90s rap metal band. So yeah, in terms of glitch, I think it's really important to, even if you don't translate that necessarily to your audience, but for you to have a structuring rigor by which you make and appreciate glitches. And then I think that's something that changes too. You know, for me, it started out as a way to express a logical understanding of loss. And maybe in some sort of not particularly self-aggrandizing way, just an inability to let go of people. You know, I think it's easier for me to believe that, you know, like my mother who passed away is somehow floating around in some data cloud that I just can't quite get at, you know, than to believe that she's rotting in the ground somewhere. So, you know, in a lot of ways, I think that my attachment, even though I like firmly say that I have no emotions and, you know, just all robot, I think that it's a way for like a sort of secular technologist to believe in an afterlife. Yeah, I'm being awfully forward with all of you. I should not have had all those lunch scotches. So I started making the Save cycle. I just finished it. It took me about 5 years to make, and it's 10 little bodies of work. And they're sort of touring around right now, which is, you know, kind of shocking. It's always surprising when other people like your work. You're like, you know, I feel like every artist needs to like have a moment with a gallerist where they're like, I'm glad you like this, but I really only made this because Mary Shelley broke up with me in the 12th grade, you know, like. So I became, you know, I became interested in glitching as not just the thing that I did, but as a practice. And when I was doing this, you know, but this was back in 2007, I was like, I'm a bad motherfucker. No one's doing this. It's just this guy. And of course that wasn't true. You know, there were people all around the world that were doing this, and people, and this is where it gets complicated. You know, glitch art is treating right now as like we're the edgy thing, which we're not. Like we are new media's deconstructed phase. Every other force has gone through this. You know, in language we had the Olympian poets. You know, in film we had people like David Gavin and Man Ray and I Am New going on, and people that were working like with the actual film trying to deconstruct it. Every apparatus theorist, every French post-structuralist, everybody like that, and and every architect right now, and even people that make food, people that are like deconstructing meals. So you order an apple pie and you get a drink somehow. Everyone's doing that. And I think that it's important in the life cycle of art and media, and really, because I don't like the word art, communication, to step back and reassess and our limits of communication and archivism, and not just whine about them. Like Louis C.K. has that great thing where he's talking about his like cell phone, and he's like, I hate when people complain about it. It has to go to space and then come back. And so it's a sort of not pejoratively say like, technology is, when it fails, it's bad, but to take an approach where when something goes wrong, whatever that means, you can appreciate it. You can say like, this is what this is doing in a time of stress. I think that as human beings, we oftentimes try to extend a courtesy to one another to help, to like you all have that friend that gets too drunk and is like kind of an asshole, and you're like, oh, that's just Jake, he gets that way, but you still love Jake, like that works. I feel like we need to extend the same kind of courtesy to our machines. I mean, our machines are imperfect, just as we are imperfect, and we shouldn't take out our aggression on them because we're not pissed that they're screwing up. We're pissed that we have the capacity to screw up. With that said, when my router goes down, I want to flip a fucking table. I try to be cool about it as can. Printers and routers. Just cannot deal with it. So yeah, back when I said I was an edgy motherfucker, I really was, I wasn't. I ended up coming across some really wonderful individuals who were working at the time. John Cates out of Chicago, John Satcham out of Chicago, Rosa Menkman. I got an awesome email one day from like Nick Breeze, who was a glitch artist, and he was an undergraduate, and I just started grad school, and he was like, I'm making this kind of work, I don't know what to do with it. I was like, I'm making the same kind of work, but I don't know what to do with it either. And then like, we were sending it around, talking with John and Rosa, and we were like, what are we doing? Like, it was like we had this thing in us that if we didn't get out of it, we were just gonna like pop. And we we'd probably for a couple months been talking about putting on a conference, and that word bummed us all out. So we just refer to it as this thing. We were like, let's do this thing where like people can just come and like, we'll just talk about shit. We'll just get it all out there. And 2 years ago, that's what we did. We put on the first Glitch conference, which is gli.tc/h, and we all kind of presented our work and invited people, and like Jody spoke there, Rosa did a presentation and conversations at the Edge at the Art Institute of Chicago, and we had events kind of all over Chicago, and it was good. It was kind of amazing, actually. Like, we thought we were alone, and then it turns out that all these other people were making similar kinds of work, and like I think sometimes people throw in the word community in art. Like, I want to foster a community, but what they really mean is I want to create a community that I can be in charge of. Like, and I firmly believe that first year was the complete opposite of that. It was just people coming together to talk about something that we all kind of had an interest in. And the conversations there, it spurred more conversations, and conversations that kept going, and then then we were like, well, let's put all these together. So we started like wikis, and then we published a book. Like, we published a book. It just kind of happened. It was all DIY. Like, we did a Kickstarter and got money, and we made a book called The Glitch Read Error. And now now Glitch had its second year, and we expanded to we were in Amsterdam and the UK. And Chicago and on the internet, and then now like people are doing little glitchlets, like like FailFest, and there's a bunch of like glitchy stuff going on all around the world. And I think it's kind of beautiful, not because I think that that glitch needs to take over the world, but it's one of those things where, like Warren Zevon, I love Warren Zevon. Oh man, he's like my go-to karaoke guy, Werewolves of London. And he says that you need to spend a good amount of your day thinking about what it's going to be like to be dead, because then you can enjoy every other moment. And what he actually says is you can enjoy every sandwich. It's kind of great. But I think that glitch art kind of proliferating, glitch art getting out there is great just because it allows other artists to think about the edges of their media. So, maybe you don't want to be a dirty new media. Maybe you're a painter person, or maybe you're like a performer. But you can see how by engaging with the edges of the limitations of your media, you can get to know it better. I mean, I don't think I'm going to make glitches forever, but I do think that everything that I make for the rest of my life will be informed by the fact that I spent so much time being concerned with the edges of technology and the edges of technologically mediated communication. Yeah, I think that's something of value. Man, I just talked. That was all like kind of blacked out for a second. Maybe we could like take a couple of questions. Or I could take the royal we. I could take a couple of questions and we could talk about it. And if you have any questions directly.
Anyone? I have a question.
Yo.
Where do you see that this community is headed in the future?
Ruin. No, I think it's like every other art movement that's ever happened. I think leaders are gonna start kind of coming up. I think that stuff is gonna start to get canonized, which is kind of weird. But also like it's weird and it's good. Like I can't totally call shenanigans because the Save a Cycle just got picked up by the Video Data Bank and now it's touring and I'm like gonna go to Canada. It's like weird. And like Corey Archangel's work was bought by the Art Institute of Chicago and there's stuff going on at the Whitney. And I think it's one of those things that like you just have to realize that it's not that you're selling out. It's just that you never bought, like you never were original. And I think that's something for us to keep our egos in check. Is that like the things that we make are not original. We're just kind of standing off other artists and kind of maybe like putting our own flavor on it in a way. So I think that the conversations are going to keep going. What I'm really excited about is seeing these conversations infect other things. So like, what would a glitch video game really look like? What would a glitch food taste like? I think these are like interesting things to think about, and hopefully where I see the genre going.
Yeah, go for it.
So, can you sort of see me?
I hear you.
Okay, that's good. So, how do you reconcile personally being part of like the art establishment, almost maybe? I hate to like scare you with that, and like working with like similar aesthetics and tools as people creating like internet outsider art, like YouTube poop and animated GIFs and stuff. Like the denizens of Tumblr, like how does that affect how you feel about working on stuff and getting into galleries and stuff?
Yeah, that's a really, okay, like there's the sexy art answer and then there's the real answer. So I'll give you the sexy art answer. Like I am never gonna tell an artist not to do stuff. Like I think that it like if you're making art or if you're making anything, and if you're a scientist making proofs or a mathematician making proofs, if you're doing this because you need to do this, I think that's awesome. I think if it's an expression of yourself that you are interested in communicating to other people, I think there are people out there to listen to it. What I think is really important for all like the YouTube poop people to do and like the Tumblr vomit going out is like I just want them to think once about, and maybe they have, I'm sure some of them have, I know some of them have, if this is really the best way that they're expressing themselves. Now I'm definitely not saying that these people have to go out and paint landscapes at all. But what they need to be able to do is stand behind what they're curating. NAMAC a couple of years ago put out this really interesting publication how we were creating a culture of noise. And they were like, oh God, like it's a culture of noise. Like how are we going to curate anything? And I'm like, be better at curating stuff. Like that's just how you fix it. So like I think it's posing a new challenge, and I just don't want people to make art without considering it for themselves. If you don't have to prove it to me, you just have to say, like, I consider this, I'm fine with it, I'm happy for you. As for the being the establishment, that might be the first time I've ever been called into the establishment. I feel weird about it.
Well, if you've got an art job and gallery shows, you're more established than someone making YouTube poops of, whatever Dragon Ball Z character.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I think it's just because, okay, I'm in school here. This is where I teach, and at some point I would like to like get health, like tenure in healthcare. So like I don't have a good arty answer for that. It's not like I'm trying to be like, yeah, like established art is the only art. It's just like, if I break my leg, I'd like someone to fix it.
As the only faculty member, I think, in the room, I agree with you.
Right on.
Something's got to give.
Yeah,
Healthcare,
like I said, I used to believe I was an edgy motherfucker, and now I believe that I like eating. I think the ultimate irony here is I make this work about not being afraid of death and engaging with it so that I can get healthier so that I can't die, It's like this ultimate...
It's all about the art.
It's all about... yeah, so that's a really pointed, good question. I'm gonna go talk to some whiskey about that.
Could you maybe talk a little bit more about the Glitch conference itself, maybe this year specifically?
This year... Sorry. This year is actually going to be different. Last year was different. We're sort of interested in where the conversations are going. I'll tell you right now, so I got this NSF grant to go work at Oak Ridge, which is like the fastest supercomputer in the world. And we only have a limited amount of time, so I'm actually stepping down this year as an organizer. I'm still going to curate, but I'm not organizing it. But the scuttlebutt, from what I hear, is that we're laying low until the summer, or until like the late spring, to kind of see where the conversations are settling down. Something that I know that people are going to start talking about is Rosa Mankman's book, which is The Glitch Momentum, which is a totally cool read. And then also some work that John Cates has been doing on curating glitches and the history of glitch. I mean, yeah, like we're 3 years into it and we're already writing the history. Like, I mean, I don't say that to be like joking. I think it's true. Like, I think that art movements are getting shorter. So like, it's actually totally apt that John is writing some of this stuff right now because it's super duper relevant. Long gone are the days where art movements took 40 years to complete. Now we're going to get through them in like 4. 2,000 years in the future, art movements are going to be that. Like it's going to be over just as soon as it starts. How rad is that? Other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm interested in. Can you hear me?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I'm interested in the idea of like the word glitch refers to like an error or right, and maybe I'm wrong, but in my language, in Arabic, the translation of it is. He got scared.
No, this is awesome. I'm like a linguistic geek. I'm so into this.
So it refers to an error or an unintentional problem or an issue. And so with your work, maybe, I mean, I'm not really familiar with your work, unfortunately, I'm sorry about that, but there's intention in producing something that is glitchy. And And I'm just curious and wondering how you would acknowledge that, or if you even acknowledge it, if it's important for you to acknowledge it. Does that make sense? Absolutely.
That's actually something that this year's Glitch conference was about. You know, and again, this is something that you're going to see a lot of different stands on in the Glitch community. But from my point of view, and something that, well, okay, so something that we all kind of agree on is there's a difference between glitch and glitch art.
Right.
And I would argue that that's true of every art, because art, for the most part, and there are definite exceptions, is representational. If you want, like, if I had to kill someone every time I wanted to talk about death, that would be a problem. Solution. No, I'm just kidding. That would be a problem. Rick Santorum has been down here. Anyway, yeah, no. So we have to make these proxies to talk about it, right?
Right.
So when I create a glitch, I do create these glitches or put files in a situation where they glitch out and then capture it. So really what I'm giving you is more like a documentation of the performance. And I think that that's all glitch art can hope to do. I mean, I think that if you ever, I mean, personally, I don't think you can ever have glitch and call it an art because of intention and presupposition and expectation. You know, I don't think those two work together. And in terms of my own work about addressing that, the last piece in the Save Us cycle is called The Well of Representation. And it's very much about that, about how, you know, I spent these years showing this work, and ultimately when you turn the page, you realize that the representations that I was destroying are in and of themselves representations. And you can never really escape that in art. I wish it were different.
No, thank you.
No, thank you. That was an awesome question.
Anyone else got anything?
Calling it out? All right.
Is there anything else you'd like to leave us with?
Well, I can say that I really like talking to you today.
Thank you for talking to us. It was great.
I'll leave you with one anecdote. Okay, so I'm working on this computer, right? And I have to learn Python to play with it, so it'll talk to me. Now, this computer is it's really big. It's housed at a secure government facility where if you go there, your GPS will shut off. That's how good this is. Anyway, so the program that we wrote to do this thing was taking a film, splitting it up into its 48,000 frames, opening all the frames, performing this iterative process on it, and then reconfiguring it. What we didn't expect was that when you open 48,000 files at a time, the computer can handle it, the hard drives cannot. They spin too fast, and then there's a heat warning, and then there's a fire safety thing, there's a shutdown. Now, when there's a shutdown at a secure government facility like this at 4 in the morning, they take a look at what the thing was named. Now, if you name your thing glitch.py, you get some calls at 4 in the morning, just making sure everything's safe because, yeah, so in November we shut down Oak Ridge's computer for like an hour or so, kind of by accident. And then there was some investigation because of the title of it. They thought it was a denial of service attack for a couple of seconds. So in closing and to sort of address that last question, you know, in a way, like, that was not intentional, and I do feel bad that it happened, but in a way, like, that was maybe the first moment I was ever a glitch artist. Because it was something completely unexpected, yet contextualized under the rubric of glitch art. Also, I think I might have an FBI record now. We'll see. Well, that might be all I got for you. I thank you so much for inviting me. I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Yeah, the day we have a performance, and then we're calling it a day.
Oh, killer! Oh man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, enjoy the performance, and I'll see you guys all later.
Thank you. Talk to you later.